So Karl was saying that he's just started working with electronics.
Yeah. That's not what I had in mind.
I'm not a big fan of lights and moving parts in my builds. So when Mike and Dafydd suggested a crafting challenge involving lights, I wasn't terribly enthusiastic to begin with. Plus, I had a busy month ahead, so I didn't have the time for any extravagant builds. Then I got thinking about what challenges are for, and that changed my perspective a fair bit. This challenge was not a craft or for a competition. It's really not about building massive things, though you could obviously. The point is to do stuff outside of your comfort zone. So I decided to roll with that and make something small but take the opportunity to experiment and try new stuff. I chose to craft a little stone brazier thing. Since I strongly dislike making things with individual bricks, I started to build that out of individual bricks. The first iteration did not go well, so I ended up scrapping it and starting over, this time using a cardboard frame. Much better. There was time to kill while the glue dried, so I made a second one from a piece of scrap foam, using my usual method. Not necessary, but I could compare how the two turned out. After priming both of them, I base coated them light blue-grey. I still have this thing where my stonework tends to be too dark, so I played around with a recipe that will hopefully give me a lighter finish. Then I picked out some stones in earth colors and gave them a coat of gloss varnish. Next, I plopped a bit of polyfiller over them. Normally I do this before I put any paint on, but that leaves the mortar looking the same as the stone unless you go over it and repaint it. I don't. This could all go horribly wrong, but even if it ended up a terrible mess, that was fine in my opinion. I wasn't invested in the pieces as much as the process, and if it failed, I'd rather have it happen on something I spent 10 minutes on rather than a month-long build. I wiped off the excess so most of the filler would only stay behind the mortar lines. There was far too much left, but again I didn't mind. I wanted to see where this could go. Once the filler was dry, I went in with a couple of washes, first Payne's Grey and then dark brown. Next, a lot of dry brushing in ivory. Now, this isn't the fanciest build, but I really like the way the paint job turned out. It looks properly stony and dusty. After putting down some black texture paste and dry brushing that, I moved on to the electronic bits. For this build, I salvaged a few flickering LEDs from some tea lights. The smallest things I had wired before this were light fittings, so I was a bit concerned as the diodes looked pretty fragile, but they were tougher than I thought. Took a bit of faffing around to get the lights to sit the way I wanted, and in the end I just used a scrap of XPS as a spacer and insulator. Had the negative sit in contact with the battery, and added a bit of wire I could tape to the positive to get the lights on.
But
Yeah.
Huh?
Forgive him, Lord.
Oh.
I thought about adding some flame to the pieces, but hot glue and dye aren't on talking terms, and I didn't have time to sculpt and cast some clear resin bits. Besides, I'm happy with this. It's enough for a nice forge glow. If you are staying away from adding lights to a build because you thought it was complicated, just jump in. The bar is really very low to get something that works. That said, my setup is positively primitive and I wouldn't suggest anyone do it this way. If you want to learn how to set things up properly, head over to Terraintronics where Dafydd has a bunch of tutorials for this kind of thing. Thank you for watching. If you want to watch the crafting challenge livestream with all the entries, you can find the link in the description. It will be live on the 4th December. If you want to watch more crafting videos, check out this playlist and have a great day. Bye!